Okay, inshallah. So we'll continue the rest of the lesson. Before we move forward and go over the third group that we studied in Surah Al-Fatiha, believers, disbelievers, and the third one was hypocrites. So adab is a kind of a punishment that is a physical torture and also it's mental as well. Someone who is going through humiliation. So they will have this double punishment. So they will be physically in the fire, and this adabun azim is being referred to the punishment of the hellfire. So they will have physical punishment and they will also be feeling humiliated because all through the life they thought they are on the correct path. And this is what is with all human beings. Whenever we are on a path, we think this is the correct path. And that's why knowledge is extremely important, knowing what is correct and what is incorrect. And that's why Quran is also called Al-Furqan, because it gives us criteria of right and wrong. So the third group begins from ayah number 8, the description of that. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَقُولُ آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ وَبِالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. So there are people, so there's a group who says that we believe in Allah and the last day, وَمَا هُمْ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ, but they actually do not believe. And this is their hypocrisy, and we talked about that there are levels of hypocrisy, that where someone who says with their mouth and they actually have no faith in their heart because they never wanted to believe. And sometimes people say it with their mouth, but their actions don't follow what they say. That's why Iman has to be followed by actions. What we say with our mouth should be in our heart, and when it's in our heart, then our actions should also change. And that's the true faith. But this group, they say with their mouth that they believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being the only one God and the afterlife, that they are going to die and meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and face Him, but they actually do not believe. يُخَادِعُونَ اللَّهَ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, and they think that they are deceiving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the believers by saying this. But actually, وَمَا يَخْدَعُونَ إِلَّا أَنفُسَهُمْ, they're not deceiving anyone else but themselves. Why? Because they are in the delusion thinking that they are protecting themselves by showing to the believers that they're believers, whereas they are losing their afterlife with this attitude, and that's why they are only deluding themselves, not the believers. They are only hurting themselves in the long run. وَمَا يَشْعُرُونَ, and they don't even perceive that because they think they're doing the right thing because of the lack of knowledge. فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ مَرَضٌ فَزَادَهُمُ اللَّهُ مَرَضًا, and it is because their heart had a disease. Either they were following a desire, and there are so many diseases of the heart that inshallah we'll study later when we are inshallah advancing in Quran. Then, and this deception is also the delusion of the heart. It's also a disease of the heart, that a person deceives themselves. And also hypocrisy is a disease of the heart. And there are three signs of hypocrisy that could be in a believer as well. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warned us. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we learned from his hadith that he told us that someone who lies, someone who speaks, he lies, he makes promises, he breaks them, and whenever he's entrusted with something, he betrays the trust. So these are the three signs of hypocrisy, and they could be, a believer could have. We are all in danger of hypocrisy, and we are supposed to protect ourselves. Umar radiallahu anh was afraid that he was part of the list which was revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he shared it with a companion, and after when he was going to die, and after his death, it was passed on to the companion, before of course his death. So Umar radiallahu anh was worried that his name was not on the list. So he was worried, and a believer is supposed to be worried all the time. So these are the traits that we are supposed to cleanse ourselves from, and that's what tazkiyah is, that we constantly look at ourselves and we always see that if we are not growing a disease in our heart or in our behavior that we need to get rid of and not be part of this group of hypocrites. So in their heart was a disease, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increased it. What happens whenever we are on something? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will increase us in that. Whatever we are working towards, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us increase in that. And they were on hypocrisy, so their hypocrisy was increased. When we are believers and we are believing and we are working towards faith and we are trying to increase in knowledge so that we can implement it, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala extends us in that as well. وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ, and for them will be painful punishment. Again, the punishment will be physical and manwi in the spiritual sense as well, that they will go through the psychological punishment as well for being wrong and being humiliated for ending up in the hellfire, bima kanu yakdibun, because of their lies, because they lied to the believers. And sometimes people lie to themselves too, and we can witness that sometimes people lie to themselves so much that they think it's the right thing. And this is the delusion that we just talked about, that they actually deluding themselves, not the believers. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ لَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ, and whenever they was told, don't spread mischief in the land. And fasad fil ard is understood as two ways, that a person disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they say they are believers, but then they don't obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they become a bad example for other people to follow. And then fasad fil ard also understood as a person literally goes to other people and causes corruption between the relationships. Goes to one person, says bad things about the first one, another person, and then goes to the other person and says bad things about the first person. So this kind of corruption where they're breaking the relationships is also fasad fil ard, and literally physical destruction of the earth as well is included in fasad fil ard. So someone who is doing that, when they are doing all this destruction, when they're told don't do that, they say, innama nahnu muslihun, we are the reformers, we are trying to reform things. So sometimes you see people going and talking to other people and telling bad things about others, and they say, no, no, we actually want good, and nothing good comes out of it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we learn from Quran that ghiba is the worst kind of bad deed a believer can do. So we are supposed to refrain from any such things where uh, the corruption is being caused, but we think that they are reformers. And this is one of the traits of those hypocrites as well, that whenever they are told that don't do bad things, that they always give excuses, they always come up with an explanation for it. And this shows that we're supposed to, instead of instantly creating excuses for ourselves, we are supposed to stop ourselves when someone reminds us of doing something wrong. We stop and we change our actions, we reflect on it. If it truly is our mistake, then we should accept it. And there is no humiliation in accepting mistakes and improving ourselves. This is actually first step towards improving. Ala innahum humul mufsidun, unquestionably, veritably, they are the corruptors, they are causing mischief, walakin la yash'urun, but they don't even perceive. So they have been doing it for so long that they stop, their sensitivity dies. And a person, over and over, when we do something over and over again, our consciousness dies, and we stop perceiving what is right and what is wrong, because we have done it so many times. So this is what happened to them. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ آمِنُوا كَمَا آمَنَ النَّاسُ, and when it was told to them to believe just as the people believed. And who are these people who believed? Companions of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself. So when they were told to believe like them, yani it should be in your heart, your actions should be changing too when you are becoming a believer. So they said that, should we believe like the foolish ones? So faha, and to them, these people were foolish because they jeopardized their dunya, they prioritize their afterlife. They did not care what they are losing of the dunya, because Prophet ﷺ was from a noble family, and he was disowned by his family, and he went through so much torture. Similarly, all other believers went through so much difficulty in the dunya, in the worldly sense. But is their afterlife safe? Yes, it is, for sure. And many of them were given good news of paradise even in their life when they were alive, which is very rare. So they thought they are foolish because they left their dunya, they over the iman. So they said, should we believe like the foolish? Ala innahum humus sufaha. Verily, they are the foolish ones. How? Because they are losing their afterlife and they don't even perceive it. They are prioritizing dunya, worldly life, over the afterlife. And the benefit of worldly life is very temporary. Probably someone who lives very long, 80, 100 years, that's it. But the life of akhirah is eternal, forever. وَلَكِنْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ, but they don't know. So they don't know that they are the foolish ones, because they don't even truly believe in the afterlife. They just said it with their mouth that they believe in the afterlife, but they truly don't believe it. That's why they are the foolish ones, but they don't know. وَإِذَا لَقُوا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا قَالُوا آمَنَّا. So this is another trait that's mentioned, that whenever they meet the believers, they say, we believed. So just for the face keeping, first, just to show the believers, yes, we are believers, just to protect themselves so that they are not looked down or being excluded from that benefit that believers will get. وَإِذَا خَلَوْا إِلَى شَيَاطِينِهِمْ, and whenever they meet their evil friends, their devils, they say, قَالُوا إِنَّ مَعَكُمْ, we are actually with you. إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُسْتَهْزِئُونَ, we are just mocking with them, we're just having fun with them, we're not with them. So what is this attitude? Whenever a person meets good people, he acts good. Whenever he meets evil people, he acts evil, and he says, oh no, I'm with you. To every group he says, I'm with you, because he just protects his benefit of dunya. He doesn't worry about afterlife. He doesn't even perceive it. So when they say we're just having fun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala became angry at them, and he said, Allahu yastahzi'u bihim. Allah is the one who mocks at them. وَيَمُدُّهُمْ فِي طُغْيَانِهِمْ يَعْمَهُونَ. And he extends them in their rebellion, in their transgression, and they wander in it blindly. How is that happening? They are in hypocrisy, and what will happen? They will only increase in it more and more, because that's what they worked for. Whatever we work for, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's the sunnah, it's the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that whenever we work towards something, He increases us, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is what happened. They thought they are mocking, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mocked at them by bringing their own actions back on them, and increase them in their rebellion, and let them give them respite, do whatever you want, and they are only creating evidence against themselves to be entered in hellfire in the afterlife. أولئك الذين اشتروا الضلالة بالهدى. These are, this whole group that we just studied about, they are ones who purchased the misguidance and gave away the guidance in return. You know how we purchase something, we give money and we get something in back. So what they are purchasing with this attitude, they're only purchasing misguidance, and they're giving away their guidance. And what kind of trade is it? فَمَا رَبِحَتْ تِجَارَتُهُمْ. This trade is never going to benefit them, because even if they thought they saved their dunya, it was very temporary. وَمَا كَانُوا مُهْتَدِينَ. And they will not obtain guidance because of this foolishness, this bad trade that they made for themselves. They will not benefit, and as a consequence, they will never obtain guidance. And it is because of their own actions, because of their own doing. So there are three groups complete there. And furthermore, there are examples. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings different kinds of examples for us to understand in Quran. And this is an example about hypocrites. مَثَلُهُمْ كَمَثَلِ الَّذِي اسْتَوْقَدَ نَارًا. So their example of the hypocrites is that it's someone like they kindle a fire. They start a fire, and whenever it lit, so fire has light in it, right? So whenever it's kindled and there is a flame in it, and he could see what surrounds it. فَلَمَّا أَضَاءَتْ مَا حَوْلَهُ ذَهَبَ اللَّهُ بِنُورِهِمْ. And whenever it kindles and he has a little bit light, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took away their nur. Why? Because of their hypocrisy. And this nur is being referred to the nur, the light of faith. So this light, this brightness is of the faith. What they said with their mouths that they believe. So there was a little bit light, and they could see something, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took away their light because they were not true in their faith, their claim. وَتَرَكَهُمْ فِي ظُلُمَاتٍ لَا يُبْصِرُونَ. And they were left in their darkness, and they cannot see. And this ability to see is not physical, not with the eyes. Actually, it's the seeing of the heart. It's the insight of the heart. It's the vision of the heart that is taken away from them, and now they cannot even perceive if they're doing something wrong. صُمٌّ بُكْمٌ عُمْيٌ فَهُمْ لَا يَرْجِعُونَ. So they are deaf, mute, and blind in the heart. So physically they can see, talk, and hear things, but in the heart they will not be able to hear or talk about it, or could see the truth. فَهُمْ لَا يَرْجِعُونَ. So as a consequence, because their heart is sealed and they cannot understand the difference, they will never be able to return. Yani, they will never be able to return to the faith. أَوْ كَصَيِّبٍ مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ فِيهِ ظُلُمَاتٌ وَرَعْدٌ وَبَرْقٌ. And there's another example now, another parable in the next ayah, as if there was heavy downpour from the sky. It's a very, very heavy rain, imagine. And there is darkness in it. So it's completely dark and there is heavy rain and there's no visibility left. وَرَعْدٌ. And then there is thunder. وَبَرْقٌ. And there is lightning. And it's becoming scarier and scarier, right? So it's the whole scene is there, and imagine that the lightning hits the ground very close to them, and that's fearful, and they can see something burning. And this is how scary it gets. What happens when they're doing يَجْعَلُونَ أَصَابِعَهُم? They put their fingers into their ears. يَجْعَلُونَ أَصَابِعَهُم فِي آذَانِهِم مِّنَ الصَّوَاعِقِ حَذَرَ الْمَوْتِ. So they put their fingers into their ears out of fear of the deaths, because that's all they worry about. Their worldly life is the priority. So they are afraid of death. A believer is not afraid of death. For a believer, death is actually a step to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the start of a new life. Because all the life of a believer, he works towards making his afterlife. So at the time of death, it's like he's freed from the life in which he has to work hard and go through difficulties. But for them, death is everything. For them, with the death, everything is going to end. So they put their fingers into their ears and out of the fear of the situation. And what happens when you believe? There are tests, there are difficult tests to prove that your faith is true. And this is what happened to the believers in the time of Prophet ﷺ. There were battles after battles. And they had to show strength. They had to stay firm. And if they were afraid of death, they would never be able to fight and stand up for their cause. Wallahu muhitum bil kafirin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all encompassing. He can encompass everyone, all the disbelievers. Yani, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has complete power over them. It's not that, they're doing all of this and it's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not holding them accountable because it's beyond Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's capacity, na'udhu billah. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning that He is all capable over the disbelievers. He can do anything to them. يَكَادُ الْبَرْقُ يَخْطَفُ أَبْصَارَهُم. So this lightning that they're in the darkness, and then there is lightning, and then there is incinerating thunderclap that hits the ground very close to them and it burns everything. That lightning, it was very near that it would take away their sights. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing His power that He could have taken away their lives. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them respite. And this is the respite all of us are given whenever we end up doing something wrong. What we are supposed to do? Do tawbah and come back quickly, as soon as possible. كُلَّمَا أَضَاءَ لَهُم مَشَوْا فِيهِ. Whenever the lightning made everything bright around them, they walked in it a little bit. وَإِذَا أَظْلَمَ عَلَيْهِمْ قَامُوا. So when it became dark, because they cannot see anything, they just stood. And there is a phase in the afterlife, on the day of judgment as well, which everything will be dark and people will have their light of their faith and they will walk through with it. So imagine there'll be no light but the light of faith. And this parable also is talking about the light of faith, that the light was there, a little bit light was there. Yes, it was scary because it was new. People had to believe in something that they didn't see their forefathers doing. So it was difficult, but it was something to be followed. And what happens? They walk in a little bit, but when it became dark, how did it become dark? Because they didn't have true faith in the heart. That's why it became dark over and over again. So they just stood there because they didn't know what to do. وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَذَهَبَ بِسَمْعِهِمْ وَأَبْصَارِهِمْ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He had willed, they would have taken away their sight and their hearing. Yani, He would have left them physically blind and deaf. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them respite. And some of them were given that, in the time of Badr as well. We'll study in detail about Badr, inshallah, as we go on in Tafsir, that what happened to them. And later on battles to hypocrites as well, and the disbelievers, what happened to them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is fully capable to do whatever He wants to do, but He gives people respite. Inna Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is on everything, all capable. He is fully powerful. He is able to do everything. Whenever He wants to do, He can do it. So these are the two examples that are mentioned about hypocrites and their state. And this ayah is like a call to all the people from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to worship Him alone. Ya ayyuhan nasu ubudu rabbakum. O people, worship your Lord. Yani Rabb, and I explained that Rabb is Malik, Khalik, Malik, and Mudabbir. Khalik, who created us, Malik, he owned us, and Mudabbir, he plans everything for us, and every little creation that he created, every big and little creation, he plans for it. What happens to those things? الذي خلقكم, he created you all. والذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. So who is your Lord? Someone who created you and all those who came before you. So perhaps you obtain taqwa, perhaps you gain consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We learn here that doing ibadah is a means of attaining taqwa. And taqwa is extremely important because without taqwa, we will not be protected from the bad deeds or bad actions that could take us to hellfire. الذي جعل لكم الأرض فراشا والسماء بناء. In the further ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows more of His blessings for us. He is the one who made for you the earth like a firash. It's a straight, extended earth. We can walk over it. It's easy to walk on, live on, build on it. وَالسَّمَاءَ بِنَاءً, and the sky as a canopy. وَأَنزَلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً, and He sent down from the sky water, and with that water, فَأَخْرَجَ بِهِ مِنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ رِزْقًا لَكُمْ, He extracted all kinds of produce as a provision for you. So if we give a little thought, if there was no rain, nothing would grow on earth. The places where there's rain is scarce, the drought hits, and the water under the earth also goes really low, unextractable. So without rain, human beings or nothing, no other creation on earth could survive. And it's mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us rain, and we need it over and over again. It's not that once is enough. And this is a huge blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And through it, He gives us all the produce that we benefit from, and all other creations benefit from it too. فَلَا تَجْعَلُوا لِلَّهِ أَندَادًا. So do not make partners for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't make any rivals for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's alone, Him being Khalik, Malik, and Mudabbir, and all His power. He doesn't need any partners. وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ, while you know. While you know it, don't create partners with Him, because shirk is so discreet that it could hide. It's like a black ant on a black stone in the black night. Invisible. We can never find out it. That's why there's a dua, beautiful dua we learn from Masnoon du'as of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, that we make that dua regularly. So we seek forgiveness of the shirk that we commit unknowingly. And I will share that in the group, inshallah, for you all. So maybe you can make it part of your regular daily du'as, or your weekly du'as, whenever you have time for those list of du'as. You can save it in your phone, and you can make a du'a folder for it, inshallah. وَإِن كُنتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِّمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَى عَبْدِنَا. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives this ayah as a challenge of Quran, which existed from the very beginning, and it's still out today, and no one was able to meet that challenge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala challenges that if you are in doubt that what we sent to our slave, yani Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this Quran, what we sent to him, it's not from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because people said that Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam listened to the stories and he just wrote it himself. That was one of the claims that people made, which was incorrect. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving them challenge. Go ahead and فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِثْلِهِ. Go bring a chapter like its chapters. If you are in any doubt that this is from God, the one true God, then go ahead and make a chapter on your own. If Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam can do it according to your blame, you can go ahead and do it too. وَادْعُوا شُهَدَاءَكُم مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ, and you go call all the witnesses, all your partners who will help you. Yani they used to worship the idols, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving them permission, go ahead, go bring anyone you want against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to produce this chapter, because of course Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to help him. So besides Allah, in kuntum sadiqin, because they also used to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Mushrikeen of Makkah used to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but then they used to worship other gods with him too. That's why it was shirk. In kuntum sadiqin, if you're truthful. Yani if you are truthful in your claim, then go ahead and bring a chapter. And no one was able to do it. And the next ayah mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala nullifies it right away in the next ayah. فَإِلَّمْ تَفْعَلُوا, you will never be able to do it. وَلَا تَفْعَلُوا, and you can't do it. It's not doable. Even if you try to do it, No one will be able to do it, and that's the challenge of Quran, which still stands today. فَاتَّقُوا النَّارَ الَّتِي وَقُودُهَا النَّاسُ وَالْحِجَارَةُ. Now fear. Be fearful of the fire, because you will never be able to do it. Stop blaming Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that this Quran is not from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fear the fire, which has its fuel as the people and the stone. And it has already been prepared. وَإِدَّتْ لِلْكَافِرِينَ. It has been prepared for whom? The disbelievers. Those who disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those who disobey Him. Kufr is also disobedience. So those who disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala altogether, for them it has been prepared, this fire. And the last ayah of the day, وَبَشِّرِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, and give good news to the believers and those who did righteous deeds. So Iman and righteous deeds go hand in hand, because the true faith is only the one that is on the mouth, on the tongue, in the heart, and then actions change with that. If we keep claiming with our mouth and our actions show something else, then we're not believers. We're not true believers, and that's a sign of hypocrisy, which we should be very careful of and protect ourselves from. أَنَّ لَهُمْ جَنَّاتٍ تَجْرِي مِن تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ. For them will be gardens under which the rivers will flow. Imagine beautiful green lush gardens and then there are rivers flowing in it. We usually travel for such beautiful sceneries, right? And Jannah is filled with it. كُلَّمَا رُزِقُوا مِنْهَا مِنْ ثَمَرَةٍ رِزْقًا. And whenever they were given something to eat, some provision to eat there, fruits and anything to eat, they will say, قَالُوا هَذَا الَّذِي رُزِقْنَا مِنْ قَبْلُ. We were given this before. Yani Jannah will not be completely unrecognizable. When we go there, it will be familiar, you know. It's sometimes we go to places and they are so unfamiliar. Imagine if houses were so different, foods were different. You can't even tell if it's food or a decoration piece. So it would be inconvenient. For our convenience, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made paradise recognizable for people, for us. So when we get there, we will recognize things, but then the deliciousness of all those fruits and the pleasure of paradise will be completely different of the extended extreme level, which is not possible in dunya. And in dunya, we usually, you know, we eat and we have to, you know, take care of other things as well. We have to make sure it takes 1 and 2 hours to make the food, and then it goes in 30 minutes. Everything is eaten and done. Hours and hours go in effort, but in paradise, the blessings will be complete without any difficulty attached to it. وَآتُوا بِهِ مُتَشَابِهًا وَأُوتُوا بِهِ مُتَشَابِهًا, and they were given similar things to it. So it's the same extension of what I'm explaining, that they were given similar things. Yani, we eat grapes here, we'll have grapes in paradise too. We'll have similar fruits so that we can recognize. And we can recognize gardens, right? Beautiful lush green gardens, then rivers as well, we have seen. But Jannah will have it on the best level. وَلَهُمْ فِيهَا أَزْوَاجٌ مُطَهَّرَةٌ, and with that they will also have pure spouses. No matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, if you're alone, the pleasure is kind of half. But imagine having a companion who are similar to you, and you're very happy with them in their company. So you will have your spouses as well, pure spouses, good spouses, not difficult spouses who causes and bring difficulty. وَهُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ, and they will live in it forever. So there'll be no ending of the blessings, no running out, no deficiency of anything. Okay, you know, we ran out of grapes today. We don't even have it. We don't even have cherries in this season when we go to grocery store. So in paradise, everything will be unlimited. It will not ever end or diminish, and they will never be taken out from the paradise. So khalidun, they will live in it forever. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to believe with the true faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and change our actions according to it, do righteous deeds, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our efforts from us and make us among the true believers. Ameen Ya Rabbul Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.